Ask Earl Anything. This is the show where your questions make the show. If I don't have questions, I don't have a show. Now, this is my second show in the month of January 2021, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that I feel a little bit more comfortable being on camera again. Last week I did a segment on drum community, and got some good questions, good responses, good thoughts. Good comments. You know, part of my YouTube experience is about the community that we have here in Drumland and drum community land. So that's what that video was about, and highlighting some of my friends. So today I'm going to start out with some shout outs. I've got some questions. I've got a good handful of questions. I thought if I did them now, we'll have a better handful of questions for the first show in February. But these are some really good questions that came in during the, between the last show, I guess, technically. Some of these came out before the last show. So two people I want to mention. A new friend, a channel called Drum Attic. I believe the drummer is named Eric. I haven't really met him, but he's commented on a few videos. He's starting up. Him and his wife come on periodically and talk to the community. He's really trying to get a channel up and running, and I just wanted to throw a little love and a little support towards him. Okay, I think we probably have some things in common, personal things and other things. Seems like a guy of faith too, by some of the stuff he posted. He had a Striper cover. I don't know a lot of guys that do Striper covers unless they have some kind of faith. But anyhow, he seems like a really nice guy. I wanted to throw a little love towards his channel. I thought this is a good way to do it, right in the front end. So try to look for Drum Addict. His name's Eric. Give a listen to his covers. And of course, if you drop on because you saw it here, tell him you saw it on Ask Earl Anything. I appreciate that. The other person's an older friend of mine. He's not doing a lot of covers these days. I see him come out once or twice, maybe 3 times a month. He's known in the community by Trey B. Trey is a massively talented rock drummer. I mean, massively talented. I think he can do more than play rock. He has a certain pocket that seems to tell me he's got more there that he's done in his background, but he really loves playing the harder edged, what we call metal. And I have no terminology of rock music today, means nothing, but harder edged rock. He just did a cover today of an Iron Maiden tune, and whenever I see Iron Maiden, it's kind of funny. I don't know Nico McBrain, but he lives in my community. He actually lives here in Palm Beach County somewhere, and I run into people that said, oh, I met Nico over here. I had a landscape guy in my yard doing some work. And he said, oh yeah, I was over at Nico's house and he was playing drums. They asked me in and we'll listen to him play. And he was the landscape guy was a drummer too. So it was kind of an interesting conversation, but it kind of triggered me. I watched the whole cover that Trey did, and I just see such passion in his playing. And when I look at drum cover drummers, what I'm looking for is passion. I'm looking for that connection to the music and locking with the music. And that really is the thing that I try to go for in my covers. I try to lock with the music. And I will tell you, the X-Track stems has really allowed me to get inside the music in a different way than trying to play over top of the other drummer. A lot of times I'll remove the drummer when I play my tracks. I can't always do that because sometimes you can't get a click to work properly and give you what you need, so you got to have them in there somewhere. But when I finish, the tracks that I use, the ones I post here on YouTube, are the ones that I'm in the track. And every time I listen to a Trey B cover, Trey's covers, he's in the track, he's immersed in the track, and you just feel the passion and the pulse. And even if it's something that, you know, and I see a lot of the heavy guys. The heavy guys are technically, they play the parts technically correct, and they're so precise, and everything is metronomically there, and it's just, but I don't feel the passion. I feel the technique, but I don't feel the passion. So when I meet, there's a couple other metal guys I listen to that really have that passion. That's what I lock into. Because music is about making music. It's not about technically playing every note perfectly. It's about how it lays in with each other. You know, most of this music, the stuff that most of the guys play on, if you're playing Van Halen or Metallica, Iron Maiden, any of those bands, they all came from a blues background somewhere in there, and they had a feel together when they recorded in the studio most of their big hits. Today's metal that's going the other direction is becoming more techno technique, you know, tighter, you know. I mean, the double bass with the triggers and the, you know, all that stuff. It seems to be more metronomic almost. But the early stuff, the early metal, that heavy grinding metal stuff that I'm talking about, Metallica, Iron Maiden, you know, Van Halen, you're talking about bands that played together. They played together in a room and they cut those tracks, and you can feel it. You can feel it in the energy. So Trey's got that energy. I love that about his playing. And I wanted to take a chance to shout out to Trey. So check out Trey B's channel and Dramatic, Eric's channel. And hope you guys all enjoy it. So today I got some questions. Also, new to my setup today is this crash cymbal over here. I just bought a Peisty 2002 18-inch crash. Now, I did an unboxing video on it. If you wanted the backstory to getting this came from a music store. I got a great deal on it. It came out, I think, brand new. There's really, my fingerprints are the first fingerprints on this thing. This thing sounds amazing. I like thinner cymbals. Like my big beats, my giant beats are kind of on the thinner side, but the giant beat multis are close in weight to these 2002s, but the 2002s have a different edge. They're a little louder, but this 18, man, when you hit it, it's like full right there, and it just sings in my headphones when I'm playing, and I love it. I love this thin crash, this 16 thin, and that's why I bought the 18. I was thinking about getting an 18 thin, but I got a thin giant beat. So I thought, you know what? Let's get the crash and see what happens, and the crash was perfect. So you're gonna start seeing these in my covers. I just put one out, a CCM cover by a woman named Michelle Pilar, who I used to listen to in the 80s. Funky groove, real funky, shuffly groove. Not Jeff Porcaro shuffly, but like, I don't even know what to call it. It's just a pocket groove, and it's by a drummer named Owen Hale, he's a session drummer from Muscle Shoals, Alabama. And Owen is just an amazing drummer. And when I first heard him on this album, I know he played with Leonard Skinner and all kinds of guys. He's played on so many sessions, it's not even funny. And he plays left-handed, like open-handed kind of too. That's for CCM drummer Matthew. You know, he plays open-handed, Owen Hale. I've watched a couple things with him playing. Great drummer. But he played on this album, and you could feel the Muscle Shoals thing, because that Muscle Shoals backbeat is back there, you know, really laying it back. And like Roger Hawkins used to do. Roger Hawkins was the original Muscle Shoals drummer. And there's a great documentary on the Muscle Shoals rhythm sections of the 60s that played with Aretha Franklin and Paul Simon and all kinds of people that came through Muscle Shoals. You should check that documentary out. It is excellent. You'll learn about Roger Hawkins. Roger Hawkins is a drummer. Every drummer should know Roger Hawkins. Everybody knows Jeff and Steve Gadd and Vinny and John Robinson, but everybody should know Roger Hawkins, Al Jackson Jr., okay? Those two guys you should all know. You should all know Rick Morata. You should all know Chris Parker from New York, Grady Tate. There's so many guys that were great players that played on so many hit records that you guys should know about. But the ones we always think about are the ones that played on the majority of them. So the JRs and the Jeff get they get that thing. Carlos Vega gets those places in the world. But there were other guys playing sessions that were just amazing. Russ Kunkel's a legend, forget about it. Everybody knows Russ Kunkel. But Owen Hale, he's done a lot of country sessions, but he's in that Muscle Shoals vein. He did a lot of those sessions at Muscle Shoals. So check out this cover. And on this cover, I did use this crash cymbal, and I had a blast with it. I love that cymbal. So you're going to hear a lot more of this cymbal, this 18. And now it's making me drool for a 22-inch crystal clear 2002 ride. That's my next thing. The big beat is wonderful. It's a little darker, a little thinner, but I think that Peisty 22-inch would really cut. And of course, then it just begs for the sound edge hi-hats to come. But these 505s really do have a certain sound, so. And I love them. So do my giant beats. My 15 giant beats sound great too. Let's get to the first question. I'll stop rambling. First question comes from Robbie Rock Drummer. This was on the Eric Carmen song, Never Gonna Fall in Love Again. He said, have you ever, he said, do you ever test 4 mics versus 8 mic setups? So he's talking about the number of mics on the drum kit. Now, I sent him a link to one of my songs. I'm not sure which song I sent him the link to, but I think the song was, it could have been Show Me the Way by Peter Frampton, or it could have been the, I'm trying to think, it could have been the Christopher Cross song, Arthur's Theme. I have those 2 songs were done with the big kit sitting over here, with the big concert tom kit, and it was mic'd with 4 mics. I had 1 mic overhead, 1 mic off to the side off the left toms, kind of a Glyn Johns kind of setup, and then I had a kick and a snare mic. That's a 4 mic setup. My drum mics on this kit is an 8 mic setup. Traditionally, I don't have a hi-hat mic. Today I do, and that's only because I was miking some concert toms with this mic, and I didn't know what to do with it, so I put it over the hi-hat. A better hi-hat mic is a condenser mic, a small diaphragm condenser. Now I've got 2 overheads that are directly over the kit, SM81s, and that's what I use. So most of my covers are done with a 8 mic setup, 8 to 6 mic setup, depending on the number of toms, really. I have enough mic inputs for this kit to have 4 toms, or have more toms, just space the mics in between them. I have 24 channels on that board. I could, in theory, have a mic on everything under the sun. 2 mics or 3 mics on the snare, 2 on the kick, if I want to get that way, but I don't do that often. But if you want to hear the difference in a miking setup, this is the difference where you got a close mic setup and overheads. So the question is, have I ever tested it? Yes, I have tested it, and I've done things with it. But I recommend you listen to some of my videos where I'm using that 4 mic setup, and you can see I get a very full sound. If you listen to Show Me the Way, Peter Frampton, which is a cover I did on that kit with 4 mics, most people have never said to me, oh, the toms don't cut. The toms are cutting right through. Same thing with the Arthur's Theme. Now those were done without, I think Show Me the Way was a drumless track, and I know Arthur's Theme was over top of the original before X tracks. But I think that both approaches have merit. A lot of hit records were made with 4 mics. Again, Al Jackson Jr., back in those days, they used to put a big ribbon mic over top of the kit, like right here, and a kick and a snare mic, I think. And that was it. Or maybe just a kick mic in that 2 mic setup. So, I mean, there are things you can do to get different sounds with fewer mics. You don't need all the mics. Matter of fact, mics cause phase issues, and phase issues cause sounds to be lost. So one of the key things when you're doing a multi-mic setup is to make sure you have your overheads in phase with your kick and snare. Now, when you hear my mixes, another thing I do in my mixes is my overheads are picking up a little kick and snare. I am not gating that out. A lot of guys will take their overhead mics just for cymbals, and they'll basically carve from like about 400 or 500. They'll take the low end and just take it out. So you're not picking up the snare, and all you're getting is cymbals from it. But I don't do that, not for drum covers for me. I mean, maybe on a couple record projects I might have mixed it something like that. But usually I have all the frequencies all the way down to about 100 and maybe 80 hertz. And I find that gives more of a room sound, and my room sounds good and my drums sound good in my room. So that's one of my little tricks to mixing. If you want to learn more about how I EQ things, there's a playlist on my channel called How I Make a Drum Cover, and I go into some of my EQ techniques for kick, snare, and overheads in that video, where I'm actually showing you on the screen what I'm doing. So I recommend you watch that. But I hope that gives you a picture of what I'm talking about. I think you need to listen. The key thing with miking is listening. Another thing I do with my mics is these mics are really gated when I'm playing, so only the tom hits come out. Snare, kick's got a little gating on it, snare has no gating on it, and overheads have no gating on it. If I use a hi-hat, it's usually panned one side and it's pulled way back. It's just there for a little touch. If I use this mic as a bottom snare mic, same thing. I'm using it for some snare buzz, and I'm pulling it way back. It's not really that deeply in the mix. My main mix mics are kick, snare, and overheads. And if I'm punching toms out, they're gated and they only come out when it's time to come out. So those are a couple of my techniques, but I recommend watching that video series on how I record a drum cover, because I go from extract stems to my setup in Logic to my Logic mixing techniques right into Final Cut. And I think that's really kind of helpful for guys. All right, my next question comes from my good friend Matthew, CCM drummer. He said, please identify me as CCM drummer. All right, you are CCM drummer, Matthew. But my friends I call by first name. Sorry about that. So CCM drummer asked me this question. The question is, which rims produce a better cross stick sound? Triple flange or die cast hoops? For me, I usually like my die cast hoop snare drums for my rim clicks better than my triple flange. But a good drummer can get a good rim click sound out of any drum. And it has to do with where you put the sound. So this is a Black Beauty. It's finding the spot that sounds right. Now, a lot of problems with cross sticks are too far back. A lot of guys take their stick, they push it right up against the other rim, and that's their cross stick sound. It just sounds weak. The other one is they push it up too far, and that sounds weak too. So you got to find the balance of where it belongs, and that's the spot for me. The other thing is I usually don't hit my rim shot, my cross stick, on a lug. I usually in between a lug. So this is closer to a lug, but not on it. But if you're getting in the right spot, a lot of times if you get on the lug, you don't lose very much. So, but I don't know. That's a Latin thing, you know. You could actually come off your tom and do a flam. So if I was doing a quasi I have no groove right now. That's the problem. When you pull it back too far, that's the weak sound. Push it up too far, weak sound. Pull it right in the middle somewhere, you find that spot, and then you get the singing rim shot. So the key is where you put the stick on the rim, if you ask me. Now that other little slide flammy thing, I learned that from Tris Imboden from Chicago. He did that on a video about Latin rock drumming. And I think I saw him do it first. Weckel may do it too. There's a bunch of guys that do it. A lot of the Latin guys do it, actually. It's kind of a Latin thing to do. For if you're doing samba drumming or Afro-Cuban drumming, they do that. But that's a cool little trick off the tom. Come down on it and flam it. Very cool little trick. Anyhow, hope that's helpful, CCM drummer. All right. The next one comes from Robbie Rock Drummer. Hey, I got 2 on here. I didn't realize you're in here twice, Robbie. This came from my Making Drumless Tracks from Extract Stems 4 video. He said, very informative. What do you do to avoid copyright infringement on drum covers? Well, first off, I don't really do anything to avoid copyright infringement on drum covers other than one thing. I never publish my videos when I upload them to anything but private. Meaning it doesn't go to public so I can't get a copyright strike. Usually YouTube will not strike you a copyright strike unless you go public with it and they didn't think it belonged there. And then they'll slap you for it. So usually what I do to check out my videos is I upload a video, and if it gets banned or blocked or something else, I find out after the upload. It says, yeah, can't do anything with this video. And I have a bunch of them. I have a bunch of videos that are sitting there that I can't do anything with. Usually artists like Chicago does it to me occasionally. Billy Joel, Paul Simon, Bob Dylan. I try to stay away from I don't even try Beatles. I have, unless it's not real Beatles, unless it's not real Paul Simon. Like I did a cover of 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover for early on, about 4 years ago almost. And I did it with the Paul Simon track, and it got blocked. And somebody said to me, well, you should try to like change the pitch of the track. So I put it up 2 cents. And then I brought it down 2 cents, and didn't matter which way I put it in, I kept getting, you're going to get a copyright strike if you try to put this out. So I was like, this is before I understood the private thing. So I couldn't put that video up. It basically got banned, can't put it up, blah, blah, blah. So I made a drumless, I made a songless version of the track. So it was just a drum track with 50 Ways. I've used it on some of my introductions for like drum talk and other things. For a while there. But I went and got not Matthew CCM drummer, Matthew Drumman 190 gave me his version of 50 Ways, a karaoke version, and I did that version of it and played 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. A different version. I couldn't put it on the track because it was different tempo, it was slightly different tempo and the movement and stuff. It was done to a click and things, I'm sure. And I used that and put that 50 Ways thing out. So anyhow, I put out the 50 Ways just drums only track. And I've had guys over the last year, I've had 2 or 3 people write me and say, hey, I used your 50 Ways track to do a Facebook Live thing with me playing and singing 50 Ways, and I needed a drum track. And yours was perfect. Yeah, it was perfect because I played along to Paul Simon. I was playing to the Paul Simon song, so it's totally like the Paul Simon song from start to finish, even with a little drum solo at the end. But sometimes things get blocked. That's all I can tell you. Now, they say you can go into YouTube and you can look up the song, and I've had people like Michael Perry tell me this. He looks up the song. Matter of fact, I just released the song The Way It Is by Bruce Hornsby and the Range, and he said, hey, that song was blocked a year ago. Well, that's the other thing you learn about songs. Sometimes they're blocked for a period of time. They're not blocked forever, these songs. If they were blocked forever, then some songs would never be able to be played. But what I find is if a song gets published and is part of a movie or a TV show and they use it periodically, and then all of a sudden you do a cover of it, but it wasn't being used for anything, and then you do a cover of it, then you upload it, but the TV show is now going to use it, they put like all kinds of blocks and publishing things on it, and they stop you from using it. Matter of fact, I just had another Chicago song I did. I did No Tell Lover from Hot Street's album, Chicago. Came out really good, and it was fine. And it was sitting there, and it was like, I think it was going to end up being a partially blocked, but didn't really matter. I was going to put it out. And then all of a sudden, 2 days, it was about 3 or 4 days ago, I guess Friday maybe. This is Sunday. I was sitting there watching my videos, and it skipped No Tell Lover on my video list. I have like a private list. It skipped No Tell Lover, and I was like, what happened there? And went back and looked at No Tell Lover, and all of a sudden it was blocked everywhere, which really teed me off. Whenever I get teed off about a blocked cover, I put it on Instagram. I just throw it right on Instagram. So if you want to see No Tell Lover, you got to go on Instagram, Earl Drum, at Earl Drum on Instagram, in my IGTV, and I've got the whole cover of No Tell Lover out there. Didn't get blocked on Instagram. Now, some things do get blocked on Instagram. So what's the moral of the publishing story? There is no moral to the story. Nothing makes sense. And you have to realize something. In the drum cover world, you have to plan on some covers are going to get blocked. If you don't want to ever have a blocked cover, use karaoke tracks, not original artist. For me, the songs I'm doing, I can't even find karaoke tracks for a lot of these songs. I'm going original artist, making a drumless track using X tracks or using stems from X tracks that is a drumless track, and I'm recording a lot of music. And I'm having a lot of fun. And every once in a while, I get one blocked, and I go, all right, that's the cost of doing business on YouTube. I get a blocked cover. So it doesn't bother me. I just plow through the next one. I'll take pieces of it, put it on Instagram. I'll use it somewhere. And sometimes I'll try to put it up there again at some point. But right now, I've got to have at least 7, maybe 10 songs that are blocked that I've done covers for that I can't get on anywhere. Other than probably... if you look on my Instagram TV, you look at the ones that says Instagram TV only, almost half of those covers are blocked covers on YouTube. So not much you can do about it. But for me, the advantages of using X-Track stems is I create a track of a song I want to play. And I don't have to deal with the other drummer. I can get rid of them for the most part. Sometimes you can't. All right, let's look at the next one. The next one comes from Samatis. I'm not even trying to butcher your name, which starts with a T. Stamatis. He's a guy who's been following me for a while. This was on the Stevie Wonder cover, You Are the Sunshine of My Life. By the way, if you didn't make it through the 2 minutes of Stevie Wonder, You Are the Sunshine of My Life, and you thought, well, that's just Earl playing again, blah, 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 you missed my little drum solo at the end. I did a little drum solo at the end of that. I had a lot of fun with that. He said, hello, Earl, nice job here. I see your sound is far better than any other video from 1 year before. So I guess he must have saw one of my videos. He didn't like the sound, and now it's better. That's good. Thank you, Stemis. I like that. I want to ask you something. I place my overheads about a half a meter up above my cymbals because a cheap couple of mics. Sometimes I know this is not English as a first language thing. Something special, but they do the job. I set the gain to 1, but the result in recording is the sound is louder from my snare if it has 2 mics up and down than it would. What must I check? Maybe, so he seems to be I'm trying to read through the question. He seems to be saying that he gets a hotter snare sound in his overheads if he uses 2 mics. One of them's picking up his snare more. Now, that could have to do with how you mic your mics. My mics are mic'd coincident over top of my drum kit. This is coincident miking. Boom, boom. Mics are pointed, I think they call it 110 degrees there. That's 110 degrees. And you kind of put your mics there, and then you've got the little arc there. And they're right over the kit, and they're totally in sync, and they're getting the same sound. When you do spaced pair miking, meaning a mic over here, a mic over there, depending on where you put the mics, might mean parts of the kit may be louder. This is where you get phase issues with the drums. So if you're going to use spaced pair, if you're going to put 2 mics in 2 different places, one of the tricks that I use is I take a microphone cable, and I take a microphone cable and I hold it on my snare, pick a lug on the snare, and I pull it over to where the mic is. Let's say it's over here, and I measure it. Okay, I measure that with that string. It's like using a string. And then I bring it over here, and I pull it over here, and I see where that is, and I put my other mic capsule right to the same spot as the string. So I keep it, so the string is tight, and they're at the same level. They're same distance from the snare drum, same distance from the kick drum in theory. That's what you're trying to do. A lot of guys do it from the kick. They'll put the measuring tape off the kick drum. But what you're doing is you're trying to get phase proper. When you get phase proper on the kit, you have less balance issues. Now, another thing is how hard you play. So when I play, I'm well aware of what I'm playing louder and harder. First time I went to Nashville and I did a record in 1987, I played everything on the kit like my hi-hat was always loud as my snare. The engineer came out and said, hey, can you play the hi-hat a little bit quieter and play the snare really loud and your kick really hard? And I was like, I think I can, but it was really awkward because I never practiced that way. And most guys, that's their dynamic. Their dynamic is the same. So one of the practice techniques I have is when I put my ears on and I'm listening through my overheads, is I want to hear my kick and snare really loud for rock music. And I want to hear my cymbals, my ride cymbal, my hi-hats down lower. So what am I doing? I am balancing myself in the microphones. The great drummers that play in studios balance themselves in the microphones. The engineer finds the levels and doesn't touch anything. And by the way, when I mix my drum covers, I find the place where I want my overheads, I find the place for my kick and snare, I find my place for my toms. And I'm not doing fader movements. I'm not pulling things up and down. I'm not going, this part of the song, push it out a little bit, pull it back, push it out. Like that's how when you're mixing an album, you have a lot of automation in things. They've been doing this, they used to do it on automated mixing desks, and then in a DAW, it's a piece of cake. You just basically draw lines. Okay, I want this to come down, fade, then pop it back up. And you do that with different parts of the song, or different effects, or different levels of vocals and things like that. Well, you don't do it on drums. I don't do it on my drums, because my drums usually, they're sitting in the mix a certain place. It's set it and forget it. And most good engineers working with good drummers, that's what they do. They set the mics and they forget the mics once they're in the place. The key is, though, no phase issues. That'll mess your drums sound up big time. And the other thing is playing to your microphones. So I hope that's a help. That's my tip for that one. My next one, next question, I think is my last question. It comes from Drum Style 927. He's looking at my concert tom kit and my video, The History of Concert Toms, Pearl Fiberglass Concert Toms, and Hal Blaine. One of my early concert tom videos. And the question is, he goes, sweet kit, how did you strip the wrap and how long did it take you to get the shells natural? So let me grab a shell and let me show you something. I'm back. All right, so this is one of the concert toms. This was white, by the way, when I bought it. I actually bought this one on eBay. I had, most of my concert toms were part of a trade, but there was an 8 and a 10-inch tom that were on eBay. Same exact shells as the other drums. The interesting thing about these drums is they were wrapped with a piece of tape going down one of these edges. As a matter of fact, I can't even find the tape mark. I did not sand this, not one bit. There's no sanding on this. This is fiberglass. That's it. So what I did was I took off all the lugs, pulled off the mounting hardware, took it all off, found the seam, pulled on the seam, pulled it off, and then took off the strip of tape that was holding the white covering on it. And that was it. These drums are so easy to take the wrap off, it's not even funny. Now, you would hope every drum was that easy to take a wrap off, or maybe you wouldn't hope that. You would think that the drums are glued, the wrap is glued down to the shell in a great way. But in actuality, a lot of drum companies of the cheaper drums don't glue it down. And by the way, Pearl at that time was not the high-end company they are today. I don't know what they do to their wraps today, but back in that day, they were coming from being the Japanese company that made the cheaper drums for the student-level drums for the United States and starting to grow into an endorser list and make pro drums. So in the 70s was their transition to it. And the fiberglass shell was one of the things that they made. And some guys like these fiberglass shells and some guys hate these fiberglass shells. I've had guys say, these are the worst. You got to have Blamire. Blamire is what Hal Blaine had, by the way. Or Fibes. They're a thicker shell. This is a really thin shell. But they, as far as the wraps went, it was almost like carpet tape. Went there, wrapped around, came there, pulled it tight, and that was all that held it on. It was a piece of tape. So taking them off every drum was the same way. Now, the bigger drums might have had a little bit more of the tape. I had to remove a little bit. I might have done a light sanding or pulling on it to get it off. I probably used Goof Off to get it off. I might have used Goof Off on this, and it did a great job. I can't even see where the seam was. This is a seamless shell. They just made molds of these and dropped them in. And these are great drums. I don't know. I like the fiberglass drums. I like the look of the fiberglass drums. My original intention with this drum kit was to paint it black and put two heads on them. So it'd be kind of Steve Gadd-like. Because Steve Gadd had a Pearl kit that he had white and he had put bottom heads on. But I never did it. Love the shells, but that's for Pearl. I will tell you, if you do the Ludwig shell, you try to pull the wrap off, you're going to have some fun. I've even seen the Ludwig shells tied into how they made the shell, it seemed like. It seemed like it was almost in the way they bend the shell. They also put the wrap in there somehow. On some of the really old ones. I don't know about today, but I'm talking about really old, like 60s, 50s drums. So taking a wrap off of a vintage Ludwig, Gretsch, it's not easy to get the wraps off. Now, the newer drums, there's different ways they're doing things today than back in the 50s and 60s and 40s. So be careful. But the rule of thumb for 70s and 80s drums that came out of that Japanese drum market thing, that's how they were doing it. I don't know when Yamaha started making their wraps a different way than that and how Pearl started doing it, but this is probably a 1970s drum. So it was rather easy, actually. I hope that answers your question. There was no stripping, no standing, nothing heavy duty to those shells. The shells really worked out well. Anyhow, that's all I got today. Those are the questions. Hopefully you enjoyed to Ask Earl Anything. Your questions make the show. If you have questions, we'll have another show. Thank you all for watching. I do appreciate you watching. Check me out on Instagram, @EarlDrum on Instagram. Let me know you're one of my followers on YouTube. And please subscribe to this. Please like my videos. Having a lot of fun with this. A lot of guys asked me, I had a question, I had a guy today said, I think it was Gilbert. Say Gilbert's handle, because I was looking at this today. It was Gilbert. Gilbert goes by Mondo Spark. I just put out Walk Across Heaven with Me, which was when I used this 18 Paiste 2002 crash cymbal. I was killing it on that song. I just love this, the way it sounds. And Gilbert says to me, he goes, "Great job, Earl. Get some rest, friend." Yes, I've been at it for a while now. Last couple months, it's been all through COVID, but the last few months, I've been having so much fun in here on the weekends. I just come out here and just knock songs out. I just sit here and play. And my wife and I, we spend enough time together in the morning and in the evenings. And if we want to do something, we do something. But we're not going out as much because of COVID and everything. And she's busy writing a book and a couple other things. So it's me having time out here in the studio. And from Friday afternoon, evening-ish, 3, 4 o'clock, I guess about 4 o'clock usually, I come out here and I start messing around. And I start having fun. And sometimes I'll do 4 covers in a day. No big deal. And if I'm doing a talking show, I can fit 1 or 2 of those in here too. and it doesn't take me that long to do things. So I'm having fun. Remember this, if I wasn't having fun, I wouldn't be doing it. I'm doing another Ask Earl Anything and getting it out this month because I'm having fun. It's back to having fun again. When I started this show, I used to do this show every week for a while. Then it became a chore. When things become a chore, I won't be doing them. But it's not a chore right now. I'm having a lot of fun. So just remember, that's why you're seeing lots of stuff from me. Thank you all for watching. Appreciate your vibe. I appreciate you taking the time. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Till the next time. Bye.